It's my pleasure to welcome our audience today in the first podcast by the Financial Services Institute, the training arm of the Financial Regulatory Authority. I think this episode is a very important one because we have Wayne Clarke with us. Wayne Clarke is a CEO of the Global Growth Institute in UK and he's international expert in leadership. Actually, this is a part of our journey started in the 6 months ago to introduce the Future Leaders program to the non-banking financial sector in Egypt. Today, Wayne delivered a physical in-person session to all participants, about 120 participants in the Future Leaders program. And it's my pleasure to have Wayne today and to welcome him in the podcast because I have many questions to you, Mr. Wayne.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, thank you. My first question, actually, how can we define the future leaders in today's world?
I think today's world is tremendously shifting, moving, changing, fluid. And the idea that there is any particular fixed model of leadership, I'd question. Maybe even 6 months ago, it would be very different than it might look today, given what's happening around the world. So I think the idea of what the essential skills are, or the key traits of a great leader, future leader, are definitely shifting and changing. I think, given the shifting and changing nature of the world, the ability to see things from people's perspectives, we call it empathy, we call it sort of more, close focus on how we understand people's views and their opinions is a really tremendous skill to both hone and also further develop. I think this is compounded by many different things. And one particular thing I think is if you looked at social media and looked at the way that the algorithms are serving up similar content to the same people in order to create interesting, consumable content, which essentially puts people in an echo chamber. And often you can become compounded or convinced by your own worldview, which we know globally has polarized so many people. So if I'm in my own world and I believe that my world is correct and my view is correct, the ability of the leader to be able to see things from multiple perspectives becomes, I would argue, not just a skill, but I think it's a superpower of modern leadership, the ability to see things from other people's perspectives. And if you apply that in an organizational sense, whether you had 100 employees or 1,000 or 10,000, the ability to see things from other people's perspectives is important. Why is that important? Well, the job of the CEO, of the leader, of any successful leader right now is to try and ensure that as many people as possible in the organization are what we would say, as an English saying, are on the same page. We have a broad agreement about what it is that we're trying to achieve here. That could be the strategy, that could be the plan. How do I get as many people as possible in any organization to agree that we're heading in this particular direction? The challenge is, more than twofold, but if I talked about two particular challenges, one is time, and then the other one is noise. There is lots and lots of noise in the system. From the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep, there's noise. So the ability to understand from people's perspectives, what might I need to do in order to help that person in that situation, in that job, earning that money, in these challenging situations and times with all of their concerns on top, how do I get them to understand that what we're trying to achieve here is relevant for the company, it's relevant for their team, and it's hopefully relevant and valuable for them individually? This is probably one of the best skills that you could develop and focus on now as a leader.
Actually, when I started my career in insurance industry 30 years ago, we were told that the only certain thing in our life is uncertainty. I think
true.
Today we surrounded by uncertainty across the world. So what is the impact of this ambiguity and uncertainty on the leaders and future leaders and leadership at large?
I worked for I left university and went to work for one of the big accountancy firms, Deloitte, or Arthur Andersen as they were. And then I ended up before launching my own company, I started with BDO. So I was, for the last part of my corporate career with BDO, exceptional firm, accountancy firm. And one of the exercises that we did was we charted the company's 100-year history. So we had all of the employees together, and we managed to find a company historian who charted the company back from 2005, I think it was, to 1905. and we drew a timeline of the evolution of the company. And the interesting thing, and it was like a revelationary moment for me, I looked back at the 100-year history of the company, and all it ever was turbulence and change and uncertainty. In the moment, you feel like there is certainty, and you feel like in the past there was more certainty than there actually was. In the moment, it's always, of course, uncertain. But the belief is that there was a time before when it was better, and there'll be a time in the future where it will be better. And the truth is, there never is. Because all that exists, as you exactly say in your career, it's uncertainty. So the best thing that you can do as a leader, of course, is to try and be aware of as much information as possible. And now the challenge for today is the information that we have access to is total overload. It's overwhelming, the amount of information that we have pushing on us all the time, inside the organization and outside the organization. And developing this skill as a leader of being able to know what to filter and what to utilize is key. There was a really good, it was actually another podcast I saw where they were talking about Steve Jobs. And one of the things that he called it signal and noise. And this idea that you can filter out the noise and just focus on what's important. And that's probably one of the most important skills, more now than ever, of being able to filter through all of that noise and help people to try and figure out in this turbulent environment what they should focus on. Because most human beings tend to not enjoy ambiguity. If it feels like I know what's going on, I feel more sure, I feel more confident, and ultimately I feel safer. And it's where you don't feel safe is where you've got a lot of uncertainty. Certainty builds safety. Now, it's like an abstract conversation because in truth, there is no certainty, but you can certainly make the team and the organization feel that way by sharing more up-to-date information as possible about what's happening.
Our Future Leaders program, we have 120 participants. They are so happy and enthusiastic about the syllabus, about the chapters, about the modules. But now I would like to share a piece of advice, very precise and concise for people, how to be groomed for the future.
I mean, I'd be interested on your view on this also, because your personal career journey, very humble man, your career journey has been from, your beginning to where you are now. So I'm sure there's lots of insight I'd love to come back to on you on this one. I think for now is the volume of information, as I mentioned before, that we're in a way attacked all of our senses all the time with, is so difficult to be able to see through. And the two challenges that we now see, one is time and the second one is attention span. So time is an interesting one. That again, people believe that there was a moment in the past where they had more time, and there'll be a moment in the future where they have more time. Yeah. It's always the way. And correct. The second one is the attention challenge. So we know that the attention span of people is not shrinking. Lots of people will say the attention span of human beings is getting shorter. We know that's not the case. If you talk to a neuroscientist, as we've done at some of the best universities, this is not the case. Of course, the change in attention span over a human evolution would take thousands and thousands of years. What is changing, though, is the competition for your attention. The competition for your attention has become more ferocious. And that's not employees in the same organization or senior leaders in the same organization. That's every single organization outside of your organization seeking to take your employees' attention away because they have access to them 24 hours a day through phones. So the challenge now for the modern leader, which I would argue is the important skill to develop, is to start to figure out how you can get the right information to the right people at the right time and start to get to the point where they both understand it, and then also it acts as a propellant to drive their performance and their behavior moment by moment.
Another question.
Yes, please.
You told me that even the passport clearance officer, he confused and he thought that you are Egyptian.
That's correct.
So how do you feel in Egypt?
I love Egypt. I keep calling this now my second home. Actually, the other day I was saying to my wife, would you be interested in moving to Egypt? Yeah. I absolutely love being here. And I think I've experienced, both from the culture point of view, of course, I love being here. It's wonderful. Weather, food, people, excellent. I think what I'm more inspired by has been working with the FSI, the FRA. It's very rare that we find organizations like yours. And I'm not saying this because we're on a podcast. I said this to the audience earlier today. I say it to people on my own social media. To have an organization like yours and the FRA who are so focused on building the capability of the entire sector is something lots of organizations and governments talk a lot about. They have the right ambition to do it, but they don't necessarily know how to do it. I think what you're demonstrating here, both through our work with you and your work with others, is being able to forge collaborations and partnerships where you are actually building the capability of the future leaders of the organization and ultimately the nation, which is tremendously inspiring. So this is my number one love of Egypt right now.
Thank you for that. And I think I would like also to thank you for coming. You traveled from UK to Egypt to support FSI and the FRA, despite the political tension in the Middle East. But as you said, I think you feel safe in Egypt. You
Sure.
are most welcome in Egypt anytime. And definitely we will have another episodes of this podcast to share your valuable experience and the knowledge with our future leaders in the non-banking financial sector. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.